actually also believe that the younger generation, they care about human connection. They care about people. They want to know who the humans are behind the work.
The world is so different today than when you were playing Elle Woods. It's dominated by algorithms and AI and social media. How do you imagine your career might be different if you were just starting out now?
Oh my gosh, Emily, I don't think my career would be possible. It's a different world. I see young people and I have so much compassion for young performers and actors because they have to be the producer, the director, they have to shoot their own videos, they have to market themselves. That's not something that I understood when I was 20 years old. It was something, there was an entire apparatus to market material. So it's a different, challenging time. That said, the incredibly talented people will always rise, right? Even in a glut of information, real talent survives and thrives.
What does success look like right now? Is it viewership? Is it awards? Is it making money? Is it critical acclaim?
For me, success looks like pride in the end product, making something that we feel really proud of, that our audiences love. I think critics will always have their own opinions, but I'm more interested in what audiences think. Are they engaging with the material? Are they coming back? If it's the morning show, are they dying to watch the next episode? And if the answer is yes, that is success.
Behind the pink neon and the rainbow-colored bookshelves is a company trying to rewire how a studio connects with fans every day across screens, shelves, and real-world stages.
What do you think is next?
I think we're seeing women getting the economic empowerment, and also now we have this empirical data that women's stories matter. Female artistry matters. The market is responding, right? Because women consume media. They're on these platforms, really liking and proselytizing on social media about the things they love. They're marketing these products, and I think it's really nice to see the acknowledgement by different industries that acknowledging women as consumers is actually good business.
You found a way to embrace femininity, but also power and agency. How do you imagine that journey being different for girls today? Do you have any advice for our daughters?
I think we have to trust our daughters. They are listening. I think we have to lead by example and do the very best we can to walk the walk. I know I try really hard with my company to show a whole dynamic spectrum of the female experience. Because if we normalize that there are all kinds of different women making different life choices, whether you want kids, you don't want kids, you want to be a career woman, you don't want to be a career woman, you struggle to make it, you worry, you question about your origins, right? When we see more stories, we become more compassionate about each other as humans.
I have three.
From one area to another and just look at a monitor. And they gave them a little bit of life. A ton of the work that went into that area was because we knew it was going to be the beginning of the game, and we really needed to make it a vibrant and interesting, fun place to be and explore.
So originally they were designed to sort of be behind glass. They were just designed to be spectacle.
Yeah.
And then all of the level designers like, no, I'm going to put that right in front of you. And I'm like, oh God, how am I supposed to make this work? It's not supposed to do it.
Get away from there, Freeman. I'm expecting an important message.
The run speed for the player was so insane.
Yeah.
It was like, what, 25 miles an hour or something?
It was sprinting.
You could get so far, so fast. And so you'd either have to make the scripted sequence like so quick that you could barely see what's happening. Most people weren't looking in the right place anyways. You know, you'd have to like get their attention with like a particle or a sound or lighting or something. And then you wanted them to see what was happening. But when we play tested, if like a scientist was like being pulled into a vent or something, like people wouldn't just stop and like, oh, sometimes they would be like, oh wow, look at that. They just run straight ahead and just start shooting.
It's hard when you think back to it to recognize that those kind of interactive moments were so new. Like people just hadn't seen them.
It was worth it because no other games were doing that. No other games had that interactivity. No other games had that spectacle playing out in front of you. And it just added that whole feel of Half-Life. Gabe had started to develop this theory around interactivity, and the environment needed to let you do what you wanted and then react to it. So if you did something, if you shot your gun, there needed to be a bullet hole in the wall. If you did a thing, people needed, other characters needed to react. The world is acknowledging you exist. The world is acknowledging all of your actions. And that's this huge part of reinforcement.
And you'd have these conversations where you'd be sitting in a design review and somebody'd say, that's not realistic. And you're like, okay, what does that have, explain to me why that's interesting, because in the real world, I have to write up lists of stuff I have to go to the grocery store to buy. And I've never thought to myself that realism is fun. I go play games to have fun. And so we had to come up with some notion of what fun was. We knew it was an ad hoc definition, and it was the degrees to which the game recognizes and responded to the player's choices and actions, right? In behavioral science, you would say we were explicitly talking about what were reinforcers and what the reinforcement schedules were, right? At that point in time, that was a useful way of making design decisions. The point I would make is, if I go up to a wall and shoot it, to me it feels like the wall is ignoring me. I'm getting a narcissistic injury when the world is ignoring me. So it is to me, I was trying to convey to the user a sense of, yes, you were making choices, yes, you were progressing, which meant the game had to acknowledge that back to you. If you shoot at a wall, there have to be decals. If you kill a bunch of Marines, the Marines have to run away from you, right? You have to have this sense of the game acknowledging and responding to the choices and actions and progressions that you've made. Otherwise, it loses any sort of impact.
Ted and I, we were on the same page in terms of what the game should look like, which would be just sort of alien in a very naturalistic kind of way. Like these are creatures from another dimension, another planet that look like they evolved in a way. And Chuck had he came from Duke Nukem. He made a bunch of monsters that went in a sort of a different direction. And for a while, the game had a hard time coalescing around a single vision.
All the ones that looked like genitals were Ted's. And all the ones with shiny bits that looked like alien soldiers were Chuck's.
That was a thing when I first came in, Ted's style and mine, and trying to figure that out, trying to find the harmony between the two to make it work. Yeah, Ted he really liked the Wayne Barlow aesthetic, and I had a little bit different, but it worked great. Ted made these really weird. He did the head crab. That's pretty much the symbol of it all. And I remember taking his head crab and putting it on a scientist and making the zombie. Right. Well, we pretty much we talked, and it's like, okay, we'll do you do that, and Ted did the soldiers, I did the scientists, I did a lot of the aliens, and with the Hornet gun, I did the Hornet gun for that one as well too. The alien slave. Well, I did some animations for the bull squid or bull chicken. I have to call it that. But that's a Ted creature there. The Hound Eye was Ted's as well.
Yeah, a lot of the fleshy. If it's got a lot of flesh on it, maybe too much.
Yeah, that's a Tedism.
You can always tell Ted's designs because they're much more aquarium than aquarium and/or unspeakables.
Oh, Big Mama! I forgot about Big Mama. Oh God,
It was a testicle, right? It's like
disturbed.
I concepted a guy in sort of a NASA spacesuit, a scientist guy. He was actually modeled after a couple of programmers I know, big, beefy, bearded Linux programmers, and so that's where the HEV suit sort of emerged out of. There was a lot of desire for not having a space marine or a soldier be the guy, and then Chuck Jones went off and did a pretty different version of him that became known as Ivan the Space Biker.
Oh God. I remember telling myself, it's like anytime you make a screenshot, make sure it's good, because you don't know where this is going to appear.
You didn't know that.
And Ivan is the prime example of that one.
Sure, man.
So, you're looking at it, well, go look at Quake. It's like, okay, I'm looking at that, and he's got this incredibly boxy head. And you're always hearing, don't put too many polys in it. And it's like, okay, so Ivan got the square head, and it was kind of an early, just a rough prototype of a Gordon Freeman baby. And I remember we didn't know what Gordon looked like. So it's like I was looking for somebody and I found Mike Harrington. It's like, Mike, what does Gordon look like? I don't know. Put yourself in there. It's like, oh, okay. And so I went in and put kind of my likeness on the early Gordon model in the game. And it kind of stayed there. Well, I was an ex-tattoo artist, so yeah, I definitely had. I don't have anything to work with now, but yeah, that point I had a ponytail on.
If you play the game, you know that it's Chuck. If you play multiplayer and you see the model, that's.
But yeah, if you look on the back of that, there's this little four triangles, and he's got a little ponytail back there. I did the G-Man, and again, that one was Gabe was talking about the Cigarette Man from X-Files. So we needed our own equivalent of that.
Because after a while, after playing with the game for a long time, people realized like, hey, we made this character, and just in this one office scene in the beginning, you know, where he's behind the window and he's talking to a scientist or something, and he's like, he looks really creepy. It was late in the day that we thought, oh, okay, well, he's going to be the big bad behind all of this. Like, scatter him around in places that you can't get to him, but he's there mysteriously.
There wasn't enough in the beginning of the game. It's like we need another monster. Headcrabs weren't enough. It got kind of repetitious. I think I grabbed a Ted and said, I need them to do this and this. And so he whipped it out in not much time at all. I'm gonna get the timing just right, and I have no time to do this, so I'm just gonna bang it out. And then once it was working, everybody said, oh, just go back and sprinkle them back in the maps. And that was this.
We introduced them a little earlier than we were planning on.
Yeah, because they weren't real tough. They weren't supposed to be tough.
But they were ranged.
But they were ranged, and they were fun, and they had a big show, and like that was showing off a bunch of stuff.
So we did not feel by any stretch that we were behind.
后来咱来看这台南这人咧排队，是咧排啥物呢？来，咱看卖这。到底是咧排啥位？安尼排这尔长，真多人。好，这是科学家啊，四界拢咧排队。 拢少年啊，来继续讲啊，这人咧排啥？好，你排啥？原来是咧排小羹啊米粉哦，小卷米粉。来看看迄是啥物物件安尼，这侪人来。 小羹仔米粉，这是粗米粉啊。中南部介少去看到这种粗米粉。伊这种小羹仔呢，啥会有小羹仔？因为小羹仔一年四季拢有。 技术费拢有，所以会当哦安心，技术费拢有使袂。一碗是90块，啊若汤无爱米粉，安尼也嘛共款钱。啊你看伊遮，哦，遮贵拢伊个啦。哦，所以呢，那个这头前对面啊，叫做是台南的大菜市啊。大菜市啊呢，即摆以前是日本人的菜市啊，即摆甲伊修好，修好要安怎呢？原来当初是生做啥物型，咱入来甲看卖一下。这头个礼拜三，白炸鸡哦，这头是咧白炸鸡，嘛是做出来啦。来，咱即摆要来看迄个台南的洗菜市，即摆收好啊，哈。要上去了，早去晚到哦，谢谢。看着无？这，看到亲像博物馆安尼，伊遮预约看。这样将来开幕吼，那个不对啊，人搁较侪。
Radio Live。
Wait, you're listening.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
You're
listening
to
Radio Lab.
Radio
From
WNYC.
Okay, after all of that, it is time to finally discuss. Let's, if the question, the topic, the theme of the moment, perhaps.
Climate change.
No, that nobody cares about climate change, man. Come on.
Hey, I'm Latif Nasser. This is Radio Lab, where despite what reporter-producer Simon Adler just said, we here at the show, including Simon, do care about climate change. But we're here today to talk about a different huge, overwhelming thing that we're all in the middle of.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I have been feeling is a general sense of frustration.
Yeah. Something that everybody's talking about, but nobody seems to actually understand.
You and I have even done interviews together with people on this stuff, right?
Which is, of course, artificial intelligence.
So much of the coverage about this stuff right now is like this running debate, right? Where you've got people on one side saying, these AI, they think they are intelligent and eventually they'll outsmart and destroy us all.
Right.
And then on the other side, you've got people being like, no, they aren't actually intelligent. They're just mimicking us. And it's not as big a deal as everyone says.
Right.
And I don't actually know who to believe.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, I don't know what AI is. I don't know how it does what it does under the hood.
Yeah, because we don't know, right? This is one of the most extraordinary things about machine learning AI is that we don't really know what they are.
But after reading countless articles, talking to tech people and scientists, I finally felt like I was getting at that question when I talked to this guy.
Stephen Cave, I'm the director of the Lieberman Center for the Future of Intelligence.
He leads this sort of think tank at the University of Cambridge.
And there's about 50 of us now trying to understand these systems using a really wide range of methods, including tests taken from animal psychology.
Tests designed to measure how well a mouse can problem solve.
And applying them to AI agents in order to understand, well, where are we in the kind of evolutionary cognitive tree of life of AI?
And they've actually turned these tests into a sort of competition that they call the Animal AI Olympics.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Oh, that just sounds fun.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So to do this, they created a slightly lower resolution Toy Story looking digital world.
Okay.
Or maybe even more accurately, like if you know the game Minecraft.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It looks like that. It's this three-dimensional space filled with all these different bright primary colored objects.
Okay.
And then they take these AI, which are running on basically the same kind of engine that powered ChatGPT, and they give these things a little avatar, like a hedgehog or a pig or a panda, and then they just sort of place them in this 3D world and say, there is food in here, find it.
So it has to like navigate the digital world to find. I mean, like I assume it's not really food.
It's this green orb that they're looking for.
Okay.
And I mean, there are walls that they have to like figure out how to get around. There are transparent walls.
But it's like physical world problem solving.
Absolutely. And I mean, well, this is the sort of task that mice or pigeons can pull off pretty easily. For these AI agents,
things like manipulating objects and understanding gravity, it's a real challenge.
Like they struggle to press a lever or perceive an edge.
Which any animal can do, or at least, any mammal, say. And so effectively, these systems don't have the common sense of a mouse, whereas higher reasoning, maths and so on, they can do a hell of a lot better than humans can.
That's the Moravec's paradox, right? Like it's like easy things are hard and hard things are easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like we've known this for a long time and it's pretty obvious at this point, but after running all of these AIs through this thing dozens, hundreds of times, what Stephen has seen over and over is that
they have a completely different profile of capabilities and skills than any animal.
They are not like us.
No. I mean, one of its capabilities might be convincing us it's human-like, but it isn't.
Well, okay, so then what is it like? I mean, is the AI little tadpoles, or what is it?
Well, there is one metaphor that some people like to use, and that's the octopus. What's wonderful about the octopus is they are phenomenally smart. It can use tools, for example, without being taught. They develop sophisticated tactics of all kinds. There are lots of wonderful octopus escape stories.
Well, wait, because that doesn't sound like AI at all.
No.
Then why this metaphor?
Well, it's helpful not because AIs are like them, but because in a way it really shows how different intelligence can be.
Okay.
I mean, octopuses, their intelligence is distributed through their tentacles.
He says, we and all mammals have this one central brain, but octopuses, they have 9 little brains, one in the center and then one in each limb.
So their tentacles can function much more independently, which is how they manage to have 8 of them all doing like clever things all at once. And this kind of intelligence is fundamentally alien to us. And that's a good way of looking at AI. Alien. Profoundly alien.
Which, on the one hand, makes this thing feel sort of unknowable, impossible to understand. But then on the other, well, it is alien. It did not evolve in some far-off galaxy or even the depths of the ocean.
Right.
Like, this is an alien we created year by year, transistor by transistor.
Holy shit!
And so this is what we're doing today.
Oh my God.
We are going to trace the evolution of this alien in our midst, this alien that we designed, in the hopes, at least, of like coming to some deeper understanding of what it actually is today. And then maybe, if we're lucky, that will give us some insight into this thing we are all, almost certainly, going to have to face off with at some point or another. So,
this is great. Like, I feel like we all need this explainer.
Great. Fill your glass, because here we go. Hey, you guys can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Simon.
Hello, Terry. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Sorry for the slight delayed start here. Some classic technical difficulties, So there are a lot of different first contacts
Yeah.
we could point to with this alien species, but The most fun place to start that I've found is with this guy, Terry Sinofsky,
Professor at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies.
who, yeah, sort of like the midwife of AI. Is that a helpful way to think of you, or no?
Yes, actually. Well, it's obviously more complicated than that, but that's not a bad analogy.
Terry trained as a neurobiologist. He came up poking probes in monkeys' heads
to try to understand how the brain works.
But then, in the mid-'80s, he teamed up with some computer scientists, trying to make computers do animal brain-like things, like hear and recognize sounds or visuals.
But it was going nowhere.
Okay.
Because everything was based on rules at the time.
Like all computer programming at this point, it was this incredibly complicated set of, like, if this, then that statements. So if you see this, and you see that, but you don't see that, then that means this. Right. This sort of web of logic.
Right.
Which, when it comes to recognizing sounds or pictures, was a problem, because
for each rule there are tens of thousands, 100,000 exceptions.
Just too many nuances in the rules to hard code in.
And so it was clear that this approach, this way of doing it through rules, was really hopeless. And so, together with my friend and collaborator Geoffrey Hinton,
he started to wonder if there was a different way to tackle this.
Learning. And so, with a small group, with computers that were puny by today's standards,
they set out to build a machine that could learn. And one of the first things they tried to teach it was how to pronounce English.
Text to speech in computer science.
And amazingly,
Demonstration of Network Learning by Terry Sinofsky and Charles Rosenberg.
They have recordings from these early training sessions.
Now, if you want to learn from experience, you have to have lots of data.
And so, you ready?
Ooh, blah.
Okay, sometimes, you want to look at me?
They took a transcript of a kid talking, a transcript I had my friend and neighbor Levon reenact.
When we walk home to school, I go to my grandmother's house because he gives us candy.
Nice, that's perfect. Ready for the next one? And then what Terry did was give the computer this text, and then also gave it the exact phonemes, like the symbols for the proper pronunciation for those words. No rules, just actual pronunciations. And then said to the computer, quiz yourself. Like, go ahead and try, and then compare what you tried to the correct pronunciation.
First recording, de novo learning.
And here it is. Wow. Right, so it has no idea what it's doing.
Yeah,
right?
not even
It is-
close.
No,
It doesn't sound like a baby either. Like that just sounds like glitched out.
It's chaos, right? It's like noise, effectively.
Yeah.
But then, as it continued quizzing itself, comparing its output to what it should have said,
When I go to my cousins, I play badminton, all of that.
slowly,
we could actually hear the learning. You could hear it figuring out the difference between vowels and consonants. And then it would start pronouncing small words, and it only took a couple of days.
When we walk home from school, I like to go to my grandmother's house. Well, because she gave us candy.
and it was acing it.
And we eat there sometimes. And we eat there sometimes. Sometimes we sleep overnight there. Sometimes we sleep overnight there. Sometimes, when I go to my cousins, I get to play badminton, all of that.
But The really astonishing thing is that when they gave the program new words and new sentences that it had never seen before,
He won't stop jumping around in the bathtub.
it pronounced those two.
He keeps jumping around, gets tired when he goes to bed, when he finally gets to sleep.
It was phenomenal.
Sometimes I get to go to bed at 12:30. Sometimes, but most of the times I don't.
What we didn't appreciate back then was that NetTalk was a little bit of 21st century AI in the 20th century. That this process of learning was the future.
Are we done?
We're done. Thank you so much.
Well, okay, but like what actually happened there? What is it doing? How do you get a machine to learn that?
Well, take a baby human. It's born with this clump of gray stuff in its head, which is really a bunch of neurons. They're all connected in like a random, messy way.
Oh, they are connected? I just imagined a baby brain was like, nothing was connected. It was a blank slate.
No, when the baby emerges, the neurons are all connected. They're just not connected in ways that make sense in terms of the world they've just popped into. But then, when it gets some input, like it touches something hot, gets yelled at, gets cuddled, it starts to strengthen some of these connections and prune others back.
Okay.
Until you have this just unbelievably complicated network of connections that can recognize patterns in the world around it and, know that this is a square, or if you poke a cat, you get scratched.
That's right. In the brain, you adapt to your world that you happen to be in by changing the strengths of connections between neurons.
Yeah. And so basically, Terry and others wanted to create some version of that in a machine.
Yeah, you hit it. The models we were developing, these neural network models, were based on very simplified versions of brain circuits.
Okay, but how did you do that? What is going on under the hood here that allows it to do this?
Well, we understand mathematically how they work, and we're making progress now at trying to translate the mathematics into something that humans understand.
And so, Latif, here is my best attempt to translate this for us humans.
Okay.
I mean, so just setting aside all of the technical setup on how is it even interpreting the data or what are you inputting?
With the help of this guy, Grant Sanderson.
Yeah, I run a YouTube channel that's named 3 Blue 1 Brown. I often talk about math, but math adjacent things as well.
Great. We're just going to draw like a mental image of what one of these networks looks like.
Okay, let's go.
Now, as we all know, these neural nets can do crazily complex things, but for now, we are going to give one a very simple problem. I'm going to draw a couple shapes. What shape is this?
A circle.
Can we get a computer to see a circle?
How about this?
A circle.
A very childlike task.
Yeah, sure.
Now, first things first, to get an image into the computer, we're going to chop it up into a bunch of pixels, like a 10 by 10 grid of them.
Okay.
And we're going to imagine those pixels as 100 light bulbs. 1 light bulb for every pixel, and light bulbs that will be on if their corresponding pixel is filled in with ink, and off if their pixel is empty.
Okay.
So you've got this circle of illuminated bulbs in this grid of bulbs that are off.
Okay, I can see it.
From there, for reasons that'll make sense in a minute, below that, we're going to add a smaller grid of 10 light bulbs, and then below that, just 1 bottom bulb.
At the top, 100 light bulbs, and then another layer, 10 light bulbs, another layer, 1 bulb.
Exactly, and that final bulb, that is just the answer. The output that, when it turns on, says yes.
Circles?
Circles, that's right. There's a circle here.
Okay.
But this last bulb, it's a little bit special. It's not like the other bulbs in that it's actually on a dimmer. So it can also answer, maybe a circle, because it could be a square if it's kind of bright. Or I'm pretty sure if it's pretty bright. Or if it's all the way on, that means this is definitely a circle.
As a side note, this feels like quite the challenge where we're torturing the poor audience members here. Probably on their drive and not able to allocate their visual cortex to try to visualize all this. But setting aside all of the technical terminology.
There's one last thing to do. We we have to wire all of these bulbs together so that electricity can like flow from that top grid through that middle grid down to that last bulb, which will hopefully turn it on. So we call up an electrician, we tell him go and connect every bulb in the top 100 to every bulb in the middle 10, and then go and connect every bulb in the middle 10 to that final bulb.
So literally every bulb is connected to every other bulb, basically.
Exactly. So that electricity can flow down from any bulb that's lit up and kind of cascade through all of them. And so the electrician starts pulling wires, soldering, and they say, I'm done. But the thing about this electrician is they're shit. Like, they just do a terrible job. Some of the wires that they put in are like a strong copper, others are just twine, so they can't even carry electricity. And so when this is all said and done, this network we get is kind of like a fresh baby brain with just random neurons clumped together.
Got it.
And so when we do send an image of a circle into it, into the machine,
圣诞节快要到了，今年圣诞节买，这样可以这个是
some bulbs in that top grid.
它这样子就不会说
The electricity passes down
很硬啊，非
through
常硬
these random connections from the top
然后
to
这
the
个
middle,
头罩
down
呢
to the bottom, and in all
很
likelihood,
硬啊。那么它原厂说这是零七。
It's completely wrong on this.
that final bulb might be a little lit up or
但
half
是我
lit
觉
up,
得
or
经
just
常说
completely
哈，就是你
Okay.
Now, when a child gets something wrong,
No, what is that?
and like a parent scolds them, that is altering the connections between the neurons in the brain, strengthening some, pruning others back, right?
Right.
And that is what we want to do with this machine. We want to mess with those wires, the strengths of those connections between the bulbs.
Right.
Now, we could just go in there and rewire this thing by hand.
Yeah.
We could pick out the important bulbs because we know which ones are lit up for a circle and direct their current through the middle bulb to that final bulb, but you know, that would take just as long as hard coding it.
Right.
And so instead, we're going to give this thing the chance to learn all this, to learn what the connections should be. So, when it gives us that first random wrong answer,
There is a 12.2% likelihood of a circle in this image.
we're going to say, bad robot, there is absolutely a circle in this image. Try again.
Okay, I will try again.
But then, after that first try, instead of us standing there saying yes or no, we are going to set it up to learn all on its own. We're going to step away and let math be its babysitter, be its teacher. And so, this is the moment where we have to dive into the math a bit.
Okay.
It's not that complicated. It's mostly multiplication.
All right. Okay. Let's go.
First of all, these bulbs in the computer, they're really just numbers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And the wires, you can really just think of them as variables that multiply these numbers
X times 2.
as they pass through them.
Y times 0.3.
A good wire multiplies the electricity by 5 or whatever. A bad one divides it in half or even zeroes it out. And that means we can just take this entire array of bulbs and wires and turn it into a giant equation.
You know, A times B plus C times D plus E times F. There's some other math strewn in there very artfully and deliberately. But the key here
is with a bit of mathematical trickery, this equation can represent the difference between the output it is giving
There is a 12.2% likelihood of a circle.
and the output we want it to give.
There is a 100% likelihood of a circle.
And if we think, hey, I've got this function and I want to like find a minimum of that,
Like minimize the difference between your output and the output we want.
there's a whole field of math that is just built ready to do exactly this kind of thing. This is what calculus is all about. Like Newton, if he was rising from the grave, would just be like showing fireworks right now saying, hey, I got this. I know how to do this one.
So somehow the calculus tells you in math equation form if you're getting closer to the right answer.
Yeah, and no, don't worry, we're not going to go into the calculus other than to say we walk away and the calculus becomes the teacher.
Okay.
So
12%
After the first wrong answer, the equation says no. Machine tries again.
25% likelihood.
And the equation says closer. And the machine tries again.
77% likelihood.
And each time it tries, it messes with the wiring, the weight of the connections between the bulbs.
Getting it closer and closer to right.
Exactly. And what happens over time is that middle grid of 10 bulbs, their connections back to that top grid are getting tweaked in such a way that it's like they're starting to pick up clues. Like maybe it's getting stronger signals from bulbs that are part of a curve. Or maybe it figures out that the corner bulb can't be on for it to be a circle. And like the thing is, we actually don't know. I mean, when people talk about these things being a black box, this is what they mean. It's this middle grid. It's all automated by math. It's picking up something. And
Like,
we might
we don't
think
know what the clues are. We just know that they're right. That the clues are.
yeah,
like,
it's
they
finding
work.
some signal that tells it there is a circle-ish thing here. And as it keeps giving answers, and the equation keeps telling it whether it's right or not, or closer or further away, eventually, each of those middle bulbs is receiving the right electricity from the right top bulbs to know if these characteristics of the circle are there. And if they are, they pass that along to the final light bulb, which will light up if enough of those characteristics are present. And at that point, our little network here has learned to recognize this circle, which
That's actually kind of astonishing. That's pretty amazing.
it is, but it's only this one circle. And so the important thing is that if you do this process not with just this one circle,
Circles.
but with tens,
Circle.
hundreds, thousands of examples,
Circle.
you know, big circles,
Circle.
little circles, messy circles, circles drawn by you and me, and you have the machine tweak all those different wires for all those different examples, you can then take all of that and do one final, actually very simple bit of math. Just average it all together. All of the wire strengths you got from all the examples for wire 1 get averaged down to one value. All the wire strengths that you got for wire 2 get averaged down to one value. And if you've done this right, you can then send in any of the drawings it's seen before or new drawings it's never seen. Circles drawn by a 2-year-old or a picture of an orange, and it will say, yes, there is a circle there.
Holy cow.
Now that process we just went through can recognize way more sophisticated things than just a shape, like cats or dogs. And I mean, the only real difference in the model is instead of these 3 grids we just used, these 3 layers, you know, an input, a middle, and an output, you just add more layers of bulbs in the middle. These multiple middle layers allow the computer to recognize progressively more complicated components of the picture. So, like, the first layer might just find the edges. The second might find textures. The third, forms. The fourth, maybe eyeballs.
Because it's like, because everything is made up of building blocks of the layer before it.
Yes.
Crucially, without anyone labeling any of those intermediate, like, it's figuring that out itself.
Exactly. And then using the same mathematical reinforcement, it can tune and tweak to get shit right.
Okay, wow. Well, I need a drink after all of this to sort of let all this settle in.
Great.
Okay, like this, I wish my kids could learn like this. Like, the way they learn is so physical, so emotional. It matters who's saying it, it matters how they're saying it matters the tone, it matters all these different things. Like, this is so clean.
And like crazy fast. I mean, what just took us 10-15 minutes to explain, that all happens in seconds. So it can learn the circle thing at basically lightning speed.
But like a circle, recognizing a circle is one thing.
Sure.
And like now we're talking like actually making a, you know, a sonnet as if Shakespeare wrote it. That seems like a very wide gulf. It seems like there's still a lot of place to go.
For sure. And our little alien is going to have to evolve here.
Yeah.
But in terms of its architecture of how it does this, it's basically the exact same.
Huh.
The only real difference is we're shifting its focus from recognizing to a slightly different skill. And we're going to get to that. You want to predict what I'm going to say next?
Right after a quick break.
Exactly. Right after a quick break.
Latif,
Simon.
Radio Lab.
So you asked this question to me before the break. Like, how did this thing evolve from being able to recognize shapes to generate stuff?
Yeah.
And I posed that very question to Grant Sanderson.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I would say there's many different ideas at play here.
Who, again, YouTuber, has thought a hell of a lot about this stuff. He says the important next step is to realize that, yes, you could think of what we did with those circles as have
第2档跟最大那一档，因为我还曾经有过一个什么圣诞版啊，时隔多年，翼飞终于又出小飞机了。那么我们现在就来开箱看看，直接打开，妈的，这个卫生棉掉出来，我看到里面相当的简洁啊，飞机好像一小包，我们看一下配件都有哪些，来。展开清楚，上面你看到它有写它的 Defender 12 Analog， 就是这个是模拟版的啊，也就是类比祖传的版本。来看一下这个怎么又是熟悉的动作哦，我们这个小穴打开，里面的东西真的是不多啊。看一下一个起子，然后一个这个拆桨的，然后这个是 BT 2.0，另外一头是转那个 PH 2.0的。这个线这应该是给充电用的。说到这个拆桨，我是觉得你如果是有在玩小机，不管你是刚刚开始接触小机，或者是说玩了好一阵子的话，我都是非常推荐你可以去找这种拆桨器。这个就像一个那个叫什么拉玛是不是那种结构？这个网络上随便搜都可以去找，这个会比较好用。因为这妈的跑掉这个传统拆桨器，如果你不是很熟悉呀。你施力点那个不太会用，你那个支点不对的话，有时候会把那个轴掰弯，这个要很小心用。我们把盒子放旁边啊，来，我们来看整个飞机的样子。我们先这样看一遍，全黑的，很帅啊。这样子，这个上下左右的把它看一遍。这个轴距是65mm，算是一个相当热门的小机尺寸。然后这个头罩呢，看一下，哇，是注塑的，很硬哦。非常硬哦，然后呢，这里看天线，这个蓝教从这个穴里面插出来，然后干到里面，这样固定住，这个其实还不错。你看，它这样子就不会说飘来飘去。
Machine recognize them, or you could say we were asking the machine to predict the answer we wanted.
Like with the circle example, there's two things that it could predict:
circle or not.
Okay, so it's not anything meaningfully different. It's just like, let's just call everything a prediction.
Right, but it becomes important when we're talking about generative stuff.
Okay.
Like in the case of language,
predict what word comes next.
So to explain, going all the way back to the 80s, IBM began playing around with these chatbots that you could type to and it would respond.
Hello there, how are you today?
And the way it would do what it was doing was it would take every word that you typed in as your question, turn those words into numbers. We're not going to go into how because that would take an hour in and of itself, but turn those words into numbers, send it through this multi-layered set of bulbs. But in this case, those bulbs, those layers it's passing through, they haven't been trained to categorize a sentence. Like, we don't want it to say that was a question. Instead, it has been trained to spit out the word that is most likely to come next, to predict the most likely next word.
Just one word, just one. It's not even a word. Also, there's a nuance here between the notion of words and tokens, but excessive nuance.
Yeah, but it's like, what is it even basing, like, how is it predicting that? With a circle, you know it's a circle. We know the right answer. We're giving it the right answer. It's calculating back to that right answer.
Right.
So, like, in a sentence that could go any million number of ways, how can it ever have a right answer to train back to?
Well, so what IBM was doing was giving it a bunch of texts, books, transcripts, conversations, feeding that into this machine. And so then the right answer was the most likely word to follow the preceding
Okay.
words.
So it's just like, here's a giant stack of human talking, and in this giant stack, what's the most likely thing that would have been said next in this exact scenario?
Exactly. That's right. And just one brief aside, because it's sort of fun, I think I have this right, that a word is a big long list of like 13,000 numbers.
What? A computer has to turn a word, one word, just like one word into 13,000 numbers?
Yeah, and so like in the way that a pixel value in the circle example is like basically a 0 or a 1. It's like every word is this list of 13,000 numbers.
It's so weird that it like that's the simpler version for it.
I know. Right?
Let me turn it into this like a phone book of numbers.
Which is again like which points to how these things are so not us.
Yeah, they're really not us.
Not at all.
Wow.
But they're using us though, right? Like it's our talk that's getting turned into numbers.
Huh.
And it literally does it one word at a time. So after it's written the first word of its response, it just does the whole process over again. It takes all the words in your question plus the first word it predicted, sends all that through the network again,
And then it just predicts the next word after that.
sends that through those bulbs again,
And then the next word after that.
does the whole thing again.
And plays the same game over and over and over. And one of the words in its vocabulary is the like end conversation token. So it has some notion of when to stop, but the act of stopping is itself just one more prediction. It's one more probability in that big list of things that should happen next.
And as I said, this is how they were doing it all the way back in the 80s. And I mean, if you interacted with a chatbot, even in like the 20 teens, this is the way they were doing it as well.
Really?
Do you have any recollection of when you first came in contact with one?
Oh, God. I feel like it must have been one of those like customer service bots on a website kind of thing.
And I'm sure, not just because it's a customer service experience, but because it was an early chatbot experience, it wasn't very good.
No, terrible. No, terrible.
And a big part of why they were bad was
they had difficulty dealing with longer stretches of text.
This is Stephen Levy,
editor-at-large at Wired.
He's been covering this stuff for
I mean,
a long time.
I published a book in 1992 called Artificial Life.
I was 2 years old, by the way.
Thanks for that.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
And he says because it predicted words one at a time and one after the other, the longer the question or the longer the answer, the more likely it was to miss or lose the larger meaning. And so eventually predict a word that just doesn't make sense or is out of place.
Exactly.
And so just to give one very concrete example to illustrate it, like the sentence, what sound does my dog make when I slam the door? It's like
that's so. I can see why that would be confusing.
Right, like you have to somehow know that in that sentence, dog is really the operative term here.
Right.
The important noun, it's not I or door.
Right.
And so in 2017,
this guy, Osgree, who worked at Google,
set out to solve this dog door problem.
He thought that the thing should be able to figure out, oh, this is the most important part of the sentence. This is what I should pay attention to.
And now the question becomes like, how the heck does one go about doing it? And what they figured out was the problem here is we're giving it one word at a time, and we're having it predict one word at a time. And what we need to be able to do instead is have it somehow process the sentence as a whole, so that something at the end of the sentence can sort of feed back on the weight or meaning it gives to something at the beginning of the sentence. And one way that you can just imagine it doing this is that instead of just making a prediction and giving an answer, you need to take in all the information, make a prediction, But then just like set that aside because you're going to take in all that information again, and then we're going to send it through again and again and again, each time focusing on a different word in the sentence, generating a different possible prediction before landing on some final prediction, which, God willing, would be bark.
It's like the computer simultaneously lives in the multiverse of that sentence where each word in that sentence is the most important.
Yeah, and like I've looked at this stuff for months, and I still don't totally understand exactly how a machine does this. But
Well, I mean, something like that, and also, you know,
you can say no. You can tell me.
well, I mean, in the raw sense, yeah, that's the idea.
Like the complexity here, you can see it's going through the roof here, like where you're like, oh God, this is so much more computing you need to do.
Totally, and this was a big barrier for a long time. I mean, that's why these chatbots were almost as bad in the early 2000s as they were in the 1980s. And this is where we get to the next step in the evolution of our little alien friend here, which, as many evolutionary leaps are, was mostly a hardware upgrade. I mean, if you have been following the news about AI at all, you've probably heard this term GPU.
GPUs, components that go into data centers.
Or the company
Chip maker, NVIDIA.
NVIDIA
The most valuable company in history.
that makes these things.
Its story, of course, wrapped up in the frenzy around the future of artificial intelligence.
These things and this company have been at the center of the conflict between China and the US when it comes to export controls.
The idea here is for the US to kind of limit the ability for China to catch up when it comes to AI.
And interestingly, what these GPUs, these graphical processing units, were originally designed for was computer games.
Video games, things like that.
And what they're really good at is just doing a bunch of different math problems all at once.
Exactly. It's just all about multiplying and adding numbers as fast as you can. There's some other things, but like by and large, like just do those two things and we're off to the races.
And doing these math problems all at once, which is called parallel processing, that's exactly what these learning machines needed to do some version of that super complicated multiverse prediction thing we discussed.
Sure.
And so, with these GPUs and this new parallelized architecture that Google named a transformer, all of a sudden, they could get a machine to parse those longer sentences and give at least reasonable answers to more complicated questions.
All right.
But what really sent these AI chatbots into the stratosphere was a kind of knock-on effect of this parallel processing.
Because when you can process everything at the same time in parallel, you can actually train on a lot more material in the same amount of time.
And so eventually, they just gave it basically the entire internet, almost everything we humans have ever said on the internet, as its training material, and started sending that through this network of light bulbs and wires that was just unimaginably big. Like, to get a sense,
in our smaller example with the circle,
there's something like 1,000 and some odd parameters.
Right.
1,000 or so of those wires.
GPT-3, which was kind of dumb by today's standards, but it came out, had 175 billion parameters.
175 billion things that could be tweaked.
Yeah, and many of the ones that we have now, they're trillions of parameters.
And as they fed basically all the things we humans have ever said on the internet into this thing,
throwing way more training examples and way more compute than anyone would reasonably think to do,
slowly they started to notice
that with a sufficiently large amount of data on a sufficiently large model, run with sufficiently many cycles of training, these new computers do seemingly intelligent things.
Now, a lot of what I just described was written up in a paper called Attention is All You Need. And these findings are really what unlocked these large language models like ChatGPT. And that's all it was really intended for. But
there was a passage in there saying we think this can work for images and video, and indeed, that turns out to work.
that same basic model of massive parallel processing with tons of input, that could predict the next part of an image or sound.
The moment civilization was transformed.
And that moment, that realization, is really what triggered the explosive proliferation of artificial intelligences, different kinds, practically different species of AIs that we are living amongst today.
New artificial intelligence systems.
Machines that can teach themselves superhuman skills.
ChatGPT 3.
GPT-4.
Using Apple Intelligence.
Dolly.
An app called Lensa. Bard.
It's called Midjourney. Text to video art generated by.
It's crazy. Look at this.
So I don't know what AI it is they're using.
Yes, it feels like an episode of Black Mirror.
So it's like all of these different apps doing all of these different things in all these different mediums. They're taking in a huge amount of examples, and then they're using fancy math to basically predict the next word, the next pixel, the next note, and from that, it's like generating this whole huge diversity of new stuff.
Yeah, basically, and I mean it's also, just as we described, doing something that I don't totally understand, that's more holistic than just looking at the thing that happens next, but it is drawing on the examples it's been given to decide what should happen next, which suddenly sounds not so simple. And
no,
that
it does send you into a spiral, because it's like is what I do any different from that? Just spewing out, some iteration of everything else I've seen before this.
Yeah, but first of all, you're not pulling from the whole internet, right? Like, you have to depend on just the limited things you've experienced or can even maybe remember.
That's fair.
If it were like math, it's also just way sloppier. It's not as accurate.
Yeah.
And to that point, and maybe we shouldn't even go here, but there's this one other thing that you can control in these models, which is called the temperature, which is like this final knob you get to tweak on the thing. And so if you have the temperature all the way down, it will give you the most likely thing to come next. If you turn the temperature up a little bit, though, it then is going to pick like the second or third most likely thing to come next.
No, so you can control like how precise you want the math. Like you can say I want it a little stanky.
Yeah, like there's a little bit of randomness in it then that it's then acting upon in what it does next. So maybe you just want the temperature turned up on like every third word, so that there's this almost spontaneous feeling, serendipitous act of creation that comes out of this rigid math.
Like it's like something startlingly creative might just be
a less right answer.
Wow.
Yep. And just by doing that, it's going to keep doing stuff that we are going to get increasingly uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Like right now, there is an AI generated song on the Billboard country charts.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
But like, if that's the case, I see no way that eventually a fully AI generated film won't hit the box office. Like that's just going to happen. But when it happens, it will be only because of all of this math.
To me, I think the thing that makes me realize is when you see under the hood, what you see is less like something spooky and ethereal.
Yeah.
Like there are times when it gets spooky, when like there'll be a time like I'll be listening to like an AI generated podcast and then one of the hosts breathes and I'm like, wait, that's so weird. Like it doesn't even need oxygen. Why is it breathing? And now it's like, oh, because you know that like that's just the next statistical thing that would come in that sentence is a breath. That to me is like it's much less eerie because you can see where it got it from.
Right. But well, okay. I do have one bit more for you, because I don't know. I still found myself wondering how it will feel as these things get better and better, and in particular, what it'll feel like in the moments we sit across from it and it is better than us at something we have spent our lives working on. That it is better than us at something we truly love.
Yeah, many people, also all my friends tell me like, wow, you are the first professional Go player be famous because you lost the game. No. So,
right.
Yeah, it's me.
And so I got in touch with this guy.
Fan Hui. I'm a professional Go player, three-time European champion.
So, real quick, Go. It is an ancient Chinese game considered probably the most complicated board game in the world to teach a computer to play because of just how open-ended it is. All you really need to know is you are trying to control as much of the board as possible. You go back and forth with your opponent, placing one stone at a time, and you control portions of the board or territory by either like cordoning off sections of it or encircling your opponent's stones.
It's very simple idea, but it's difficult.
Because with such simple rules, there are just this crazy number of ways the game can play out. In fact, folks like to say that there are more possible ways for a Go game to go than there are atoms in the known universe.
Yes.
Anyhow, back to Fang.
I remember I discovered the Go age like 6 in my school in Xi'an, and I feel something. Oh, this game I can play, and I progress very quick. 1 year after I learned Go for my school, I'm number 1.
3 years after that,
I'm in the best team in the province.
And not long after that,
I stopped my school. I only learn Go game.
I mean, for years.
Every day, only thing you do is just play Go game. 12 hours.
12 hours of playing.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Around age 15, he went pro. And somewhere along the way, he says he noticed this almost magical quality of the game.
Go for me, it's like a mirror.
A mirror?
Mirror, yeah. Because when you play, you can see your mind on the board.
He says all the choices you make, whether you're aggressive in attack or are patient and waiting, in a sense, how you think stares back up at you.
It's like a print, mind print.
And your opponent's mind, he says, it's printed there too.
So I play with someone, I don't know him, I never talk with him. I play one game, I know him. This is magical.
But this mirror of his, well, it was about to get shattered.
2015, the Mr. Hazabis,
researcher at Google,
sent me an email like, we have some very exciting Go project. Can you go to our office, visit? We will show you our project. I tell yes, okay, why not?
And what they showed him was this thing called AlphaGo. It was a computer that had learned how to play the game, and they asked him, like, will you play against this?
So I tell them, okay, we can play together because I will win. It's just a program. That's the program. What can you do? You can win with me? Never. It's like 0% chance to win this me. 0%.
And why were you so confident?
Because I know the best program this moment. I can give 6 stone handicap game.
Got it.
So how you can possibly make the technique, make the huge difference just months? It's impossible.
And so, a month later, in this windowless office room, Fawn faced off with this computer and its human stone-placing helper in a best-of-5 game match.
The first game, all the game, I feel good. I think I will win. But end of the game,
with just a few stones left to play.
I stupid. I make some mistake, and I lost my first game. Okay.
But he's thinking, I was sort of arrogant going into this. I was overly confident.
So next game, I will be careful. I will play more seriously. I will win the game.
So the next game, he sits down at the board, starts carefully placing his stones, and it's looking good on the board. But inside his head,
I feel something really difficult. Very difficult. Very difficult.
Because
I like fight, but AlphaGo don't fight with me. And if I wanted something, AlphaGo give me very easy.
Looking down at the board, he was not able to see his opponent's mind in the way he always had.
No.
There was no bravery, there was no subterfuge that he could sense.
I see AlphaGo want to do this, AlphaGo want to do that. But why they won't do this? You cannot find it. You can't.
And so he didn't know how to respond to it. His mind started to race.
Good move, bad move. Good move, what mean? Bad move, what mean? Good move, what think my teacher? The good move, what think my student? Everybody, all my friends.
And he realized that with all these emotional pushes and pulls that eventually
I will make mistake. But AlphaGo, no. Never. When you think about this, the confidence is crushed. It's crash. All crash. And I lost again. Very, very badly. And I lost again for third, fourth, and the last one.
Yeah, damn.
But you know, this experiment is really good for me. This is a moment I really see myself.
Really, you think AlphaGo taught you to be more
Myself, yeah. I think this AlphaGo teaching me about that.
and why?
Because I see myself. So it's like AlphaGo teach me that our life, we will always lost. Sorry, it's real life. It's our life. I think this is a human. This is important for us.
I think what he saw in that game as he was losing was kind of what you were saying about seeing under the hood, making AI less spooky. Like he could see it wasn't magic. It was math with no mistakes.
Right.
And when he saw himself, you know, like not being the perfect Go player in any given moment or in every given moment, like that's what makes him a person. A person who could love something but still lose at it. Maybe feel bad about that and then use that feeling to figure out what to do next.
Today, I teaching the Go in China with students.
Why are you teaching Go? The computer will always win.
Yes, but be careful. Because I think that all you experiment to learn is still useful. So don't worry. It will be coming. You can do nothing. Accept it and just learn.
Yeah, I get that.
Before we wrap this thing up, I wanted to put all of this in front of someone. And not an AI person, but somebody with a really wide scope on technology and history. And so I went to this guy.
Tom Mullany, I'm professor of modern Chinese history at Stanford University.
I worked with him years back on a story about typing in Chinese, and look, he's just one of the most thoughtful and informed people I know.
Yeah, that means a lot. That means a lot to me.
So, how would you respond?
Well, I mean, everyday life is at its core a study of this awful, amazing, horrifying, never-ending surprise of what it means to be born and live and die as a human. And even if at the end of the day an AI is orders of magnitude smarter, AI, just by definition, cannot suffer and rejoice and live and die in quite the same way that humans can, in the same way that we cannot live and die and suffer and comprehend and feel the way an octopus can. I mean, the only thing an AGI will be able to do is contemplate, my goodness, what does it mean to be an AI? And so I am not worried at all about what AI means with regard to meaning, human identity, what it means to be human, or any of that.
Well, that was very beautiful. And while I love that, I'm still like, but this is gonna mess everything up so badly. I don't know if
I agree.
Okay, good.
It's gonna I mean, this is gonna get weird down to the fabric. But fast forward this, 20, 30 years, if we're still around at a sort of climate change level, when another future human is sitting in this fabric altered world, it will still be a group of humans rejoicing, suffering. It will still be that condition. And so it's kind of a for me it's like a little bit of a liberatory time. It's a great, maybe we get to free up a little bit more space to get back to work thinking about how to be human. Because we have not even come close to solving that issue.
Special thanks to Stephanie Yin and the New York Institute of Go for teaching us the game, to Mark, Daria, and Levon, to Barbara Svenich, and of course, thank you to Grant Sanderson for his unending patience explaining the math of neural nets to us. Grant is kind of like your favorite math nerd's favorite math nerd. His YouTube channel is 3 Blue 1 Brown. Check it out. This story was reported and produced by Simon Adler, with original scoring and sound design by Simon Adler. Which brings me to the last unsavory thing I have to say, which is goodbye to Simon Adler, who happens to be one of our best reporter producers here at the show and also a friend. He's going off to, among other things, pursue his music career, and this was his last episode on staff with us. Chances are, if you list out your favorite episodes from the last 11 years at the show, more than a couple will be his. Could be some of the tech stories he did. He did stories about drones and...
好，真的，这不是业配，这是我直接推荐，而且它全年有在卖，全年这一支也要卖60几块还是70几块，它是酱油膏，这支真的很方便，这支不管是沾蒜泥白肉还是沾一些冷盘的料理，其实它都还蛮好吃的。它比例的话，大概就是水跟这个酱油膏比例是1:1啊。你大概是半碗的酱油膏，大概半碗啊，因为今天这个量也不太够。锅子我就不洗，我就直接这样放就好了。大概就是水也是半碗，我们把它丢进去里面。因为这个水等一下还要把它煮稍微干一点，所以那个水其实比例的话其实不是很重要。像我的习惯就是半碗，就是1:1。这时候我们蒜酥就放一点下去，一点点就好了，把它放下去煮一下。如果你吃的比较咸的话，你就不要加糖下去了。像北部人他们就不加糖，南部人就是加糖会加比较多啊。像我们中部人的话，多少会加一点。那我就加一点糖下去了，让它比较顺口啊。至于加多少的话，就看个人了。一样啊，这个开中火或小火要慢慢的煮。我们等下要把这个水稍微煮干一点，要把它煮浓缩一点，把它煮干一点哦。这样拌面下来的那个味道才会好吃啊。一边煮 可以一边试味道，自己在家里煮就没有什么要求了。如果做生意的话，就稍微比例要自己稍微抓一下。我们来试一下味道。哦，这个味道已经够了。好，那我们就关火了。关火之后也是一样，找一个过滤的，我们把那个蒜酥把它过滤掉。知道为什么要过滤吗？因为这个煮过的蒜酥会软软的，吃起来口感会不好。因为等下面的话要配蒜酥，吃起来会脆脆的。1碗的酱油跟1碗的水，加一点糖，煮完之后还是1碗，这样就代表成功了，好吧？那我们来煮面吧。水滚了，我们就来下面条了。我们今天用的是牛肉扁面，你要用牛肉细面也可以，我觉得细面也蛮好吃的，就随便你们啦。面快好了，我们把它捞起来吧。西哥不喜欢吃太烂的面，所以我们就把它捞起来。因为今天儿子放暑假，所以面会煮稍微多一点。西哥刚刚偷懒是用压力锅去压它，所以压30分钟。其实这个都已经软烂了，等一下要等到放凉的时候才能切。啊，如果你赶时间的话，就用冰块下去，让它迅速降温，这样切的话会比较好切，而且这样切的话才能够切成薄片。那我们就先放在旁边咯。刚刚煮完剩下来肉的汤汁啊，我们把它加以利用一下。如果你们要开店做生意的话，你可以放点萝卜，或者是一些高丽菜或白菜都可以。来，把萝卜丢进去，全部丢进去。我们就用压力锅压个10分钟或15分钟就好了，煮个简单的清汤。如果喜欢贡丸的话，就可以丢一些贡丸下去。来，我们来开始调味啦。怎么样调味呢？很简单，第一件事情就是先把这个肉加个2片上去就好了，意思一下。酱油膏，这个不是酱油膏，这是特制的已经处理过的酱油膏，就是我们的拌面酱，1汤匙，蒜油1汤匙，蒜酥来一点点，我来一点点，少上一点葱花，这样子就是西哥的蒜香拌面，这个味道真的非常好吃，我真的不骗你们，把它搅一搅就可以了。这个面你回去试试看，试完之后就告诉我是不是比外面的还好吃。目前为止我吃过的拌面还没有这个好吃。如果要做生意的话，你就煮一锅汤，先把肉先煮好，煮完了那个肉把它捞起来，把它放在旁边放凉，放凉再切，而且凉着切的话会切的比较薄，会切的比较好。像我就是没有放凉切，所以切的非常厚，非常稠。那剩下的那个高汤嘛，我们把肉都捞起来，剩下的高汤要怎么做呢？放一点白萝卜，放一点红萝卜下去，甚至于把1颗高丽菜或者白菜把它丢到里面去煮高汤。像你做生意嘛，你就会有贡丸汤嘛，或者是什么肉片汤，卖个贡丸汤，卖个肉片汤，其实都还不错。好吧，那我们今天就到这里了。喜欢我的影片，请帮我订阅、分享、按赞、按小铃铛，随时接收我们最新的信息。跟大家说声拜拜。最后再来一碗萝卜清汤，结束。嗨，大家好，我是西哥。今天我来跟大家分享什么？今天来跟大家分享我店里的炒饭。我店里的炒饭其实卖的还不错，它跟炒面一样哦。这2个都是主力商品啊，因为我店里中午就只卖这2样。其实这2个都卖的还不错，而且味道都还不错。炒饭的话，我就是比较偏重于家庭式，它并不是像外面那种用快速炉或者小泡芙在炒的。像我现在的话，量也没有办法做很多，所以我就还没有把我的小泡芙拿出来用，而且最主要是家用瓦斯真的比较节省，小泡炉真的是喷瓦斯跟喷水一样，喷钱一样，所以目前为止是小泡炉把它收起来，所以现在是用家用的瓦斯炉。这也是一个炒22年的炒饭的老前辈教我的。我店里的炒饭啊，最重要的2个元素就是盐巴跟酱油，这2种是我特别去跟大家学的。盐巴的话是调咸味，酱油是调香味跟颜色，这2种非常重要。因为盐巴如果调得过咸的话，那个客人吃起来啊会有点腻，会有点不舒服，而且口很容易干。如果放的太少又没有味道，所以我等一下会告诉你我大概是怎么做的。像我是把它公式化，公式化的话就是我每一个客人吃到的， 味道都差不多。但是酱油的话，我选的是一个比较冷门的牌子的酱油，因为它的咸度比较没这么高，颜色也比较淡，就是我比较喜欢它的颜色，因为它颜色炒起来比较不会那么黑啦。可是有些人就喜欢比较黑的，像我店的话是没有这么黑。等一下我会示范2种炒饭，一种叫做酱油蛋炒饭，另外一种叫做火腿蛋炒饭。火腿蛋炒饭也算是我店里的招牌哦，因为非常多人点，而且也非常多人爱吃哦。那我就来开始介绍我的调味料跟一些食材。那我们来介绍我的调味料。调料的话，我用的是这一支酱油啦，这支酱油价钱不贵，大概60-70块，只是说它盐分没有到很高，有颜色也没有到很深。这支酱油是我最常用的，它比较不适合拿来卤东西啊。卤东西的话，你可能还要再加点盐。它还蛮适合拿来炒菜跟炒饭，我是觉得还不错啦。再来就是胡椒粉，胡椒粉要少许就好。再来就是最重要的就是盐巴，盐巴下得好，炒饭就炒得好。这个去食品茶味店买就可以了。像我的话都是炒饭的话，大概是半汤匙左右就好了。每一个客人都是半汤匙。再来就是酱油是转2圈，这样的调味起来不会太咸，也不会不够味。再来就是我们的米啊，煮完的饭，我的习惯是每一份是210克啊。像我们这样子的饭还不会马上使用，我们通常的习惯是会冰在冰箱里面2个小时以上才会拿出来使用这样子。那我们就来开始示范酱油蛋炒饭。倒油，这个不锈钢锅很容易粘锅，所以油温一定要让它起来。打个蛋下去，马上就粘锅了，对不对？就不要管它了，继续用。放点青葱下去，青葱下去啊，把它炒一下。好，炒到有点起泡，关小火，把饭放进去，开火。关小火，我们来调味了。半汤匙的盐巴，胡椒粉很重要，一下就好。酱油转2下就好了。第2次我们再撒葱。不锈钢锅的好处就是它的油烟会少一点哦，你们发现？其实它温度很高哦。好，结束。7颗用的火腿是比较好的火腿，像这样比较贵，但是它的肉感会比较重。像外面的有的是粉粉的，吃起来我觉得不是很好吃，所以我就没有用那个。虽然成本会比较高啊，但是客人是觉得说还蛮好吃的。把它切成丁，这样子就是1份。稍微要切大一点，吃起来才过瘾。那我们来示范火腿蛋炒饭，来倒油。把它放在旁边去，倒火腿， 放点轻松下去。来，赶紧炒。好，关小火。来，开火。来，转小火，我们来开始调味。一样半汤匙的盐，胡椒一样，一下就好，不要太多，太多会很辣哦。这个是酱油，转2圈就好了。青葱最后再放一次就好了。开火。好，结束，这样子就完成2个炒饭了。一个是酱油蛋炒饭，另外一个是火腿蛋炒饭。我们回来了，这是我刚刚跟大家分享我们店的炒饭，味道还不错啦，不是最优的那个，但是也不是最差的那个，还混得下去。如果你要自己开店的话，你可以用培根炒饭、火腿炒饭、肉丝炒饭，各种只要能够放的，味道不要太重的，其实都可以拿来炒。好了，那我们影片今天就到这里了。如果喜欢我的影片，请帮我按订阅、分享、按赞、按小铃铛，随时接受我们最新的信息。跟大家说声拜拜。嗨，大家好，我是喜哥。今天我们来跟大家分享什么呢？今天我们来跟大家分享一个泰国的一个街边小吃，叫做醉鬼炒面。上个礼拜跟大家分享叫做穷鬼拌面，看来让大家都还蛮喜欢的，而且也蛮踊跃的发言。那我们今天来带来不一样的，叫做醉鬼炒面。醉鬼炒面版本非常的多啦，真的是每个人做法都不同。西哥今天是找一个比较家常、比较稍微简单一点来跟大家分享，但是今天的配料跟佐料非常的多，所以大家可能就要稍微看久一点点。好啊，那我们就开始喽。来，那我们来开始准备配料啦。我们先准备柠檬啊，大概1/4颗就好了。这个是等一下炒完的时候我们才要最后淋在面上的。再外，我们就准备蒜头啊。如果喜欢蒜味重一点的话，可以准备多一点点。我们把它切成薄片，或者把它敲烂也可以。他们泰国的话是直接把它敲烂，跟辣椒把它敲烂。可是这样味道实在太重太辣了，所以我们就切片就好了。切完之后，我们把它放在旁